What's up, what's up, what's up? I'm Mike. Welcome to TBH, To Be Honest. And of course, I'm here to give my honest opinions and review another episode of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Season 14, Episode 17, A Fashion Show with Fashions, honey. Not like Dwight said back in the day, honey. He said, a fashion show without fashions. How dreadful. But child, we about to unpack this episode, honey, because we all know the real meat and potatoes is at the end of the episode. We all want to get into what happened with She by Sheree, honey, this fashion show. So I'm going to try as best I can to get through the first part of that show, because really the last about 45 minutes was She by Sheree fashion show. It was a supersized episode, as Bravo likes to call it. I believe it was like an hour and 15 minutes long in total. So let me get into it. So of course the show starts off where they have little flashes of everybody, just like a little catch up. We show Candy with was it Blaze, I believe, driving in a car. Then we see Drew talking to her mom about her Achilles. We flash over to Kenya. She's on the phone talking to her production team about getting into CVS. 5,000 CVS's. So, honey, big ups to Kenya, honey, because that is amazing, honey. Now, I ain't no hater, child. That's amazing. Like, girl, do your thing, honey, with them CVS's, honey. Then we switch over. We see Marlo. She's going to Sonya's house. She takes her two nephews over, Michael and William. And pretty much Sonya and Ross have decided to become a part of Marlo's village. Ross definitely is interested in, being there, I guess, like a male figure for the boys to help out and everything, which I think is amazing because, I mean, based on how we see her family anyways, it doesn't seem to be a lot of male figures around. And we know the situation with their mom, who, to our knowledge, is still in prison. I don't know if she has fully agreed or signed on as of yet to go to the mental care facility to get more treatment. So we know that she's not around. But Ross and Sonya, they have like these, I guess, cute little mechanic outfits for the boys. They're going to go work on the car. He's going to teach them how to change a tire, how to change oil, which is great. I mean, these are things that everybody, men and women, need to know. Hell, my ass ain't even know how to do none of this until I probably got older, and that was really by just kind of watching people in the neighborhood. I mean, no shade, but I ain't have my father around like that, so I didn't learn these things at a young age. As far as car things or things that people consider to be manly, child, I didn't learn any of that until I was like, 18, till I got a car. Maybe a little before, like I had knowledge before, but I've never actually physically done any of these things. But I thought that was great. Hopefully Ross and Sonya sticks around and, that they're there for Marlo. I mean, I was a little hard on Sonya early in the season because of her beef with Drew. But towards the end of the season, the last few episodes, she's kind of grew on me. I've kind of gotten used to her being there. So I'm hoping that next season she kind of returns as well, because, I mean, I would like to see her around and see how she evolves and grows. Sometimes Bravo gets rid of these women pretty quickly, like first season done. Like, okay, well, she can get a second season, honey, I feel. But anyways, to get back on topic, while they're out fixing on the car, Marlo and Sonya talks about her mom. Marlo says she's staying at a hotel. Sonya asks, well, why isn't she staying with you? And then, Marlo goes into the details that she hasn't spoken to her mom in about 3 years. They've had a lot of back and forth, pretty much issues, different things that happened where their relationship grew apart, which we'll learn a little bit more later on about that. But she pretty much tells her that her mom was on drugs. She pretty much had to kick her out of the home that she purchased for her because she was going around through the neighborhood, knocking on doors, and just pretty much absolutely doing the most. So that was a lot. And then Ross talks about, pretty much what I kind of mentioned before about him learning about cars from his stepdad. So he felt like it's something good for the boys to learn. And I like seeing him because, I mean, they have a son, Sonia and Ross. He's younger, but it is nice to have a male figure around William and Michael. So that's pretty great. Marlo does ask Sonya about a baby because she was pretty much said she had something to tell, and she was like, "What, girl, you about to have a baby?" And I mean, it's pretty much in the realm. She was like, she was planning on having a baby, and then Marlo talking about some UTI, taking a UTI out, and she's like, "Girl, a IUD." I'm like, "Girl, ain't a UTI a urinary tract infection, or is it just me, honey?" I mean, I don't know, honey. I ain't never had it. I don't know if men can have it. I don't know. Well, I'm sure everybody can get it, honey. I'm just being extra, but still, like, girl, UTI, honey. I cannot with Marlo. I'm through with her. But anyways, they show where Sonya made an announcement earlier to her husband, and I believe it was her mom sitting down, that she was going to get the IUD removed and go along with their plans for making a baby, which is great because they both seem to be on the same page now. I guess before it's more of a Ross saying, "I want a baby," and Sonya like, "Well, I don't want a baby," but now she's like, we're actually hearing each other, and now he knows what I kind of need during this process if we do go this route with having another child. So I'm glad. Kudos to y'all that y'all getting back on track. So that's good. Then from there, we flash forward to Sheree. That says 1 week before the fashion show, Sheree meets up with her event planner. They do a walkthrough of the venue and pretty much just catching up on everything. Rowan is there as well, and she, is asking about the fashions. Sheree says that she has outsourced in New York. So now I'm like, girl, now I thought you said LA and Alaska last time, and now we talking about something is outsourced in New York, honey. Now, which one is it now, honey? Now, I ain't saying you lying, girl, but I'm feeling like we hearing a lot of different states keep popping up now, honey. We hearing a lot of different states keep popping up. I don't know. Maybe she went to New York after the LA and Alaska folks weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. But I believe at that time, I think she only just had 5 pieces. They were still waiting on more pieces to be brought over. But Sheree was stating that she has PTSD from the first time she tried to do the fashion show. And they show the flashback with the white saying a fashion show without fashions, how dreadful. So, she was pretty much overwhelmed, and it's getting closer. It's 1 week before your show, so she's like, honey, I only got 5 pieces, like, what the hell I'ma do? So from there we switch back over to Marlo, who's meeting up her mom. She flew her in from West Memphis. She says it's been 3 years since they've seen each other. She asked her mom where her teeth are. That is a mess, honey. Asking Miss Emma where her teeth at. But I don't know, honey. I guess she forgot them, lost them, threw them in the trash. But Marlo did mention, like, girl, we gonna have to get you some veneers or something, honey, to keep them snatched and in. And by the way, Marlo does have a nice Rolls Royce, honey. The interior, I believe it was like an orangish color. The outside is black, but it looked really good, honey. Like, a Rolls Royce looks nice, honey. Like, no shade, I would get me a Rolls Royce, honey, or a Bentley if it came to fashion, because I like Kenya's Bentley too, honey, and her Tesla. I'm a big person on cars. I love cars, honey. So yeah. But anyways, Marlo and Miss Emma go to this store where they are going to try on some different things. Marlo does mention that her mom makes and sells a lot of things for flea markets, so that they were there to, buy some things, and so she can have them, and then just things for herself that she may want. And they bring up about her drug and alcohol abuse / possible addiction that she had in the past, because Marlo says that she just wants to make sure that she's still not on drugs or anything, because it's been 3 years since they've seen each other. And she also says that she's glad that they're in public, because things could get worse if they met up and talked in private. Now, I'm going to pause right there for a second, because that kind of made me sad that you had to feel like that you would have a better conversation with your mom in public because you feel like, I guess on both of y'all ends, both of you would be on your best behavior. So I was like, dang, it must, it got to be a lot of layers to your relationship. It got to be pretty rough. And this is why I do appreciate Marlo now having a peach, even though, I've said that I feel like sometimes she can get below the belt. But I always said that Marlo's personal life would be a great storyline with you, taking up and being a parent for your two nephews. Now with us finding out more details about your mom, like you mentioned her before, mentioned some things before, but never like in depth things about your mom. And it's sad, like no shade, like a lot of Black families can relate to Marlo's storyline in one way or the other. Either you can relate as far as your parent being on drugs and not really being around. You can relate as possibly being a child that could have been in foster care. Or something happened to your parents. You had to stay with other family members for a while or an extended portion of time. Or possibly you, the breadwinner in your family, and everybody coming to you for money. Like, it's a lot of layers. So for that, I commend her for allowing us to see that personal side and vulnerability with her personal story and background. So I do hope that Marlo comes back for a second season. I hope she learned a little bit as far as like, being a little gooder, going below the belt, because I feel like she can reel it back in. But overall, I must admit, Marlo, I did enjoy you this season, and no shade, without you, it wouldn't have been much going on this season. I mean, other people contributed. Everybody contributed in their own way, but I feel like for the larger person, you're one of a couple of people that largely contributed to this season, whether good or bad. You definitely contributed a lot to this season. So hand clap to you, honey, for this season finale. But to get back into Marlo and her mom brings up that Marlo kicked her out the house, and Marlo says she kicked her out due to there being a lot of drug activity. The mom wasn't home. They were selling drugs out of the house, and on top of that, Michael and William were there as well. So this definitely has to been right around the time that their troubles with her sister, their mom, and I guess her being in and out of jail, mental health issues. So that had to have been a lot, honey. And Marlo was saying that the police was calling her because, I mean, she's the homeowner, so the police were calling her about all this different activity. And she was like, what finally made her go ahead and take William and Michael. Not only that, when she found out about all of the activity, but she was like, one day they had just called, and I believe she said Michael had called and was like, auntie, come get us. Like, it had to have been too much going on. Like, kids know, honey. I don't know what it come from, or what these parents be thinking when they think their kids aren't smart, or just because they're young, they be like, oh, child, they ain't gonna remember that. Honey, we remember, child. I remember stuff from before I was even in kindergarten, honey. Like, if it's something that I feel like was traumatizing, I definitely remember it, honey. Kids remember. Like, they remember everything. Things that's traumatizing, things they don't like, somebody harmed them, anything in that nature, as well as you can remember good things. I remember a lot of good things from being younger, but I definitely remember things that stood out were bad, whether a family member says certain things that I didn't like, or about me, or about my lifestyle. Those things stay in your mind, honey. And no shade, as you get older, honey, sometimes certain stuff happen and you'll have a triggered moment where those thoughts come back up, because I've had a lot of them. I feel like my later 20s, honey, was kind of like a soul searching / early life crisis type situation, because a lot of things that were happening in the present when I was maybe like 26 25 26 started in 27 started popping up, and old memories and everything started coming up from being younger. And it was just like, dang, maybe I'm this way because of this. So you got to start dealing with stuff, unpacking and all that. So that was a lot. It was another place where I could relate to and kind of connect with Marlo on a deeper level because of, you know, her talking about the traumas that she had. And Marlo did mention that her mom left her when she was 10, and she starts to break down because she was like, I needed you. Like, you know, you were on drugs and you left. So now we know that pretty much from there, I'm assuming around that age is when Marlo went ahead to go be in the foster care system, because the mom did mention a statement like, I'm here now, like, I'm sorry. Like, anytime you did need me when you were gone, I found you and I was there. So I'm assuming that when she was probably getting passed around from foster home to foster home to foster home, her mom, she would try to reach out to her mom. And then once she did get in contact, her mom would, I'm assuming, go there, which I know the courts and everything, they, do keep the parents informed, of course. Now, I know they don't give like the exact location or address where they're at, but they do give you information if you are willing to be a part of that whole process. So, child, that was a lot, honey. And then the mom says that Marlo has been staying away, and Marlo says because she doesn't want to be hurt. And I can get that, because I am a very strong person. In my later years, recent years, I've learned that I am much more sensitive than I thought. Even though I am strong, I could put up a good front, but I am sensitive about a lot of things. So I do understand in the hurt thing, because for me, I feel like if somebody hurt me, or even if I give them a chance, forgiving them, anything, it's like I don't want to be constantly hurt by the same person, especially if it's someone that you felt like you were close to, whether it was parent, a best friend, close family members. It's like at some point you got to protect yourself and just be like, okay, honey, no shade, but shade, I got to cut you out of my life for now, honey, because you hurting me, honey, and I can't do what I'm meant to do or supposed to be doing if I'm just allowing the same person to hurt me over and over and over and over. And we ain't saying that Marlo perfect, honey, but I do feel like when it comes to parents and kids, to a certain extent, honey, I feel like it's the parents' job and duty to be there for their damn children, honey. Like, what in the world? Like, I know she was struggling, honey, with drugs and stuff, and I definitely have lots of sympathy for that, honey. But I do understand what Marlo was saying about not wanting to be hurt. So then we switch back over to Sheree, and she's doing like a fashion show checkup, just making sure, trying to figure out about the pieces and stuff. Then we jump over to Kenya. She has her product launch at CVS, which is great. We see Candy, Sonya, and Drew show up. All of her Kenya's products are on the shelf, on the end cap. It looks great. Everything is like in purple. I'm like, yes, girl. Boom, boom, boom. Power of, the color of royalty, honey. I guess power of royalty too. But everything looked good, and I was happy for Kenya because I know she's always done her Kenya more hair care. And she's always mentioned about different products and stuff that she had. And she did mention, I think she mentioned Sally Beauty 1 year where her products was in. So, and I know earlier in the season she mentioned CVS, but I know she's going to be in 5,000 CVS's. That is great, girl. Like, I was so here for that. They kind of talk about the fashion show, or their thoughts about Sheree's upcoming fashion show. And Drew was like, I believe she said that, but you know, she brought up about her on her a couple of $100. I'm assuming she was bringing up from the party from last week's episode. Then they mentioned about the pieces. They were like, oh yeah, girl, Sheree said something. I think they were like 24 pieces. And they were like, well, child, she said something about 22, and then it went down to 19, and then she only got 5 pieces. So she's still waiting on the rest. So they was like, girl, we hope that everything come through, honey. Because at this point, it's like the point of no return, honey. The show coming up, you know, send out invitations to all these people. So I would hate for you to cancel. So that was a whole little moment. Then we switched back over to Candy with Mama Joyce, child. Now, I do like Mama Joyce, honey, and I do like Candy, but sometimes they both be getting on my damn nerves, honey. And mainly because of Really, Mama Joyce, with your thought process, like some stuff, yes, but some stuff, most of the stuff, it'd be like, girl, no. But pretty much they talked about Ace acting. Candy wants to find Blaze a dance class, which I think will be good. And then she brings up the trust, and she stated that her and Todd couldn't agree on exactly what to do. So they're going to have a separate trust and then a joint trust, which I think is a great idea. Candy mentioned that Don Juan would be in charge of the joint trust. You know, Mama Joyce, of course, like, well, child, yeah, Don Juan fine, honey, but we should have one other person. I'm like, who, Mama Joyce? Who the other person, girl? Because we know you gonna say you, honey. And of course, she said herself. But they also kind of go in details about the trust. Mama Joyce feels like that Riley needs to have a separate trust for herself. And Candy's like, well, why? And she was like, well, Riley's father isn't there. Pretty much she said she doesn't have a father. Like, so she feels like Riley should have a separate trust. And Candy like, well, what about the other kids, honey? Like, you got like only got one child. And she was like, well, their daddy's here and blah, 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 blah. And I do get what Mama Joyce is saying to a certain extent. I do feel like I don't think she needs a separate trust, because you can designate everything the way that you want it. Like if you want Riley to primarily to get like a larger portion than the other kids, then you can have that all, you know, laid out, honey. So in the event of something happening, honey, everything's laid out. They'll be listed as beneficiaries. You can have Riley wherever her chunk is, the other kids with their chunk. Boom, bam, bam. All good. And then also they brought about if she passed that, you know, they felt like Todd, well, she kind of mentioned this before, she mentioned about Don Juan being in charge of the joint. You know, Todd getting the money pretty much is how I feel, or bringing somebody in her house. And, you know, Candy kind of like, well, yeah, child, I went and want him to get married. Like he can date somebody, but I want him to be single. And I was kind of like, girl, I get what you're saying, but to me, that was like selfish. Like for me, if me and my partner are married and Lord forbid something happened to me, I would want them to get married again if they want to. Now, you gonna have to wait a little bit. Now, that's my own request, honey. Now, after I get laid up in the ground, honey, don't be running around with nobody like 6 months later, honey, because I'm gonna be feeling some type of way from the other side, child. I'm like, God, honey, you gonna have to go ahead and let me borrow one of these bodies down here, honey, so I can come on through that house, child, and check some stuff, honey. Either that, child, or let me come on through in spirit form, honey, like the ghost of Christmas past, and be like, nah, bitch, what's going on, honey? What's going on? You supposed to wait a little bit, child. Don't be trolloping around, honey. Too soon, too soon. But no, seriously, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Now, if it was reversed and my partner passed and then I was still here, I know for me personally, I probably wouldn't get remarried, because I always said that I take marriage very seriously, and I only really wanted to get married one time. So whether if it didn't work out or something like that happened as far as death related, I feel like I probably wouldn't get married again. Like even if I started dating somebody, I'm like, yeah, child, we can be dating. Like I can be committed at all, honey, but I don't think I want to get married again, child. I wouldn't want to get married again. And that was a bit much, honey. So, I mean, I understood what she was saying, but I was like, girl, you can't ask your husband not to remarry, child. I felt like that was a bit selfish, though. That was a little bit selfish, in my opinion. But anyways, we switch over to Sheree, back at the venue, which looks absolutely gorgeous. We see they got the She by Sheree sign up in the front in black and white. Like everything is laid out, decked out, runway, chairs, black and gold. Everything looks good, crisp, clean, creme de la creme. So I was like, yes, Sheree, you doing it. And more so, yes, Rowan, honey, because you showing Kenya and these girls, honey, like you told her, honey, I'm doing it my way. I know what I'm doing. So I was like, yes, Rowan, honey, yes. But they meet Lavila, which is the CEO of the modeling agency. So this time we see some of the models. Well, I really recognize one model, the main one that Kenya was like, girl, put your information on the back of this card so we don't lose it. I saw her. And Lovila had a lot of different models there for her, so that was great. It's like, yes, girl, so we getting all the models we need. Like, as it starts getting closer, it's like everything is falling in place for Sheree, which I'm so happy about, because I'm like, girl, fingers crossed, honey. Like I said on my last video, girl, I might run my mouth, honey, but girl, we all rooting for you with this She By Sheree, honey, because it's been forever, and I know how it is to have a dream or something, and it just seemed like every time you turn around, stuff keep failing, honey. So I was happy about all of that. We see Apollo arrives, and, you know, he's impressed with everything. And then we see Tyrone, honey. He pop up, honey, and this damn, I don't know what he had on, child. I guess like a OG pimp slash drug dealer-ish type outfit, honey. But I mean, not that it was ugly, child. It was just, it wasn't my style. But you know, he talked, and Sheree looking like, okay, child, like, what is you doing here? And he like, oh, I just want to pop up, surprise you and all this. And she basically like, oh, well, honey, like, you can pop up here, but you left me hanging in Philly. And he mentioned something about the filming and all this, that, and the third. So I guess in the confessional, Sheree like, oh, child, so you just wanted to be on camera, honey. Because I guess he was saying that he didn't know. I don't know, child. I don't know what he's saying, honey. It just confused me, honey, because it made it seem like at first he was trying to say, like, he didn't want to be there because they were filming. And then, but I'm like, well, you here now and you on film, but he's saying that the ankle monitor gone, he can travel. So I'm like, I don't know the laws like that, child. So I mean, if he could have gotten in trouble or been a parole violation or whatever, then I guess. I guess I don't see how him being on camera would have got him in trouble. I mean, hell, the Housewives of New Jersey, honey, we seen Teresa as on camera with a whole ankle monitor and everything, honey. She just had to get special permission to go to certain places, and that's about it, honey. In a certain, I know it was like a certain mile radius, and I know people in real life that, you know, same thing. You just got to get permission. As long as they approve, child, you good. So if you was already, I feel like if you was already in the Philly area, you would have been good. Because Sheree was in New York, honey. She traveled from New York to Philly to visit your ass, and you stood her up, honey. Low down, trifling, whatever you want to call it. Boo, Tyrone, I'm done with you anyways. But then he further pisses me and Sheree off because he's talking about something he feels like well, Sheree wants an apology, but he feels like they both should apologize to each other. And I'm like, child, what she supposed to apologize for, honey? I mean, to my knowledge, child, she was holding you down while you was in prison, honey. And what she apologizing for? You stood her up. If anything, you should be apologizing for that, honey. You should have been like, girl, I'm so sorry. That's when you should have bought flowers and all this other stuff, honey. But you wanted to argue back and forth. And production messy as hell because her daughter, is it Kaylee or Kylie? She up there like, who is that, honey? And then in the caption, it said production. It was like Tyrone, and she looking like, oh, I'm like, child, messy, honey, messy boots, child, messy, messy, messy. But in that moment, I did like how Apollo kind of walked over, you know, and talked to Tyrone a little bit. And to me, it was in Sheree's defense because he was basically saying like, you know, kind of mentioned like, you know, you left her there, X, Y, and Z. So I was happy in that moment because I'm like, well, Tyrone, you was coming off like a little hostile, honey, just a little hostile. But I understand y'all in a relationship, emotions a little high, especially if you feel like she needs to give you an apology, although you need to apologize to her. So that was good. And I was with Sheree like, honey, I'm not trying to do this in front of my daughter and in front of all these models. Like, honey, I'm preparing for this fashion show. You need to gather your things and scurry on the lawn, child. You done wasted enough of my time as it is all these years, honey. Boop. Then we switch on over to the archive, honey, where we see Marlo with her mom. And, she, you know, she's showing her around her business and letting her know things. She's giving her mom a little stuff to try on. She put a nice little Chanel hat on Miss Emma, and she looked good in it, honey. She looked styling and profiling. Marlo did say that she got her fashion sense from her mama because her mama was real fashionable, honey. So I was like, okay, Miss Emma, honey, you looking cute. Then she also mentioned that she's inviting Candy. Candy's on the way. But Marlo and her mom gets into it before Candy gets there, and basically her mom stated that she was talking to another family member. I don't know who it was, if it was another sister, a cousin, but she was asking them like, child, do you think I should bring this man around? Do you think Marlo will feel some type of way? And of course, Marlo felt some type of way with that because she was like, well, I already heard it. And she was like, because for her, it feels like she's had a lot of bad experiences with her mom being with a man around her. So for her, it's a trigger. It's traumatizing. So clearly, like she stated, she feels like every time you get a man and bring him around, you pour all your time, attention, love into this man. And I'm left on the sidelines like, okay, mom, like, what I'm getting out of this. Like, I ain't getting nothing. So I do understand that. And and Marlo also mentions maybe that's why she ain't got a man now. And I'm like, at first I was kind of like, girl, bad. But then I'm like, well, I mean, it could be true because some stuff could be traumatizing to the point where, I mean, not saying you wouldn't talk to or date men, but as far as long term, you're probably like, I don't know if I could do that. And a lot of things from childhood are triggers. And if you peel away the layers, could be some potential reasons for why we do certain things or some of the things we do in our adult lives. So, this episode, honestly, I was like, Marlo, you got it going on, girl. This episode with your personal life, personal stuff that you spilling away at, honey, like, I'm here for it. Because all these other seasons we've been at here, we only got messy Marlo and fashion Marlo. We never really got personal life Marlo. And I love personal life Marlo, honey. I love it. Marlo also states that she's been away or doesn't really interact because she feels like in her family, since she's the one with the money, that everybody calls her for money. And she doesn't want to get calls for money only. And then I'm like, well, child, something, she don't care about money, this, that, and the third. And Marlo was like, well, even if I haven't been around, I still send gifts and presents for like birthdays, holidays, stuff like that. And they kind of get into it about for, about the man being around. Because like she said, you're like, dang, girl, you only been here for 3 days and you already talking about you want to bring a man around. So I guess, I'm sure it brought up trauma, old feelings for Marlo. So she, felt some type of way. And Lord, honey, they was still getting into it a little bit as Candy was coming in. So Marlo was like, well, I'm about to get up, about to go get something to drink and stuff. And Candy like, are you okay? So I'm like, Candy probably heard something. Or, you can tell just by looking at people or feel the energy of the room. Like, okay, child, something ain't right. Something done happened. So Marlo comes back. Then her friend / assistant / florist, whoever he was. And I think it was the same man that was the florist that they went on a trip with. When they had the little trip where they were like, well, you can bring a friend or something. So he came in there with like food and stuff. I think they had egg rolls, like the Philly cheesesteak egg rolls, some salmon egg rolls. I'm like, ooh, child, I would love a Philly cheesesteak egg rolls, honey. But I'm allergic to cheese and dairy products and stuff, honey, so I can't eat it. I'll be not broke out, child. I mean, I could eat a small portion, but I don't even be wanting to risk it these days, honey, because I don't like breaking out and itching and stuff, child. I ain't got time for that. But the food looked good, honey. And then I did like how Marlo wanted Candy to meet her mom, and Candy kind of, asked questions. So she's like, well, I've heard about you. And she asked about the drug use, like when that started. And her mom was like, when Marlo was 7. So I'm like, dang. So she endured 3 years of her mom, having this to be heavy on drugs. Her mom said she was I think at least she said she was a CNA at the time. But pretty much everything went downhill because she even mentioned like if she would have stayed on that path, she probably would have been a RN and, furthered her career, medical career and being a nurse. So I'm like, dang. So this started at 7, then at 10. That's when you left Marlo. That's all they say. I don't know exactly what they meant by left. So I'm assuming, like I said earlier, from there, that's must have been when she went into the foster care system. So I'm like, oh, wow, honey. That was a lot. And then Candy asked them about counseling. And Marlon was like, that'd be a good idea or whatever. And Kenny was like, well, child, it ain't work for me and my mama, honey, because we done went and I done got cussed out, honey. And I was weak because Mama Joyce did cuss her ass out, child. But that's neither here nor there, honey. But it was a nice little scene. So now we to the meat and potatoes, honey. We get to the fashion show. So, honey, the fashion show, everybody start arriving. Everything looking good. The ladies start showing up, honey. Then I got it written down right here about the people I like their outfits the most. To me, I like Kenya's outfit with like the all silver, like that looked good, snatched. And for the first time, honey, I actually like Sonya's outfit, honey. Like, this was probably one of the better things that she has worn. And I was like, yes, queen. Like, you looking good, Sonya. Like, okay, girl. Like Candy said, got a little razzle-dazzle going on. I did like Marlo's outfit. I mean, it wasn't nothing extravagantly over the top, but the bodysuit and with the like scarf-looking thing that was hanging down, all of that was cute. Everybody else just kind of seemed a little plainish to me. Like, their outfits weren't ugly. Like, Candy had on a nice blue dress, but it just seemed simple to me. Like, Drew had on a nice black dress with little accessories, but that's all it was. Like, people say the little black dress, honey, in the closet with the matching boot, honey. The bedazzled boot, honey, and the heel. I'm like, girl, why you having a flat boot and the heel, honey? Like, you should just put on some flats or something. I know these girls be like, ooh, child, fashion, I'm on TV, I'm on camera, I'm about to be on the red carpet. But, honey, if my foot hurt, honey, I'm not putting no damn heel on the other foot, because then you still gonna be walking lopsided. Like, that just didn't make no sense to me. It really didn't. And I would just put a damn flat on, or at least a damn kitten heel, honey, or something, child. Well, maybe not a kitten heel. Maybe something, no, child. Because then it would, I was say maybe something a little higher than a kitten heel. But that would bring us back to the shoes she had on. Just put on a flat, honey. You could put on some sandals. It would have been fine. Nobody wouldn't have talked about you like you're injured. They'd been like, girl, she injured. That's why she got flats on. Boom. And if somebody got something to say, I'd be like, well, clearly they must be shallow or something ain't right with them as a person, honey, if you worried about what somebody got going on versus their health and well-being. But anyways, we see the people's arriving. I got a whole list of people. We see Fatum. They showed the Sean Snow looking snatched with a nice little shortcut. I was like, yes, girl. I just wish we would have got to see like interaction. Granted, I know she don't really know. She don't know any of them. The only person she know is Sheree. But it would have been nice if like at the end she would have been like, yes, y'all, look at my friend Deshaun, X, Y, and Z. Like, that would have been real cute. Because I know a lot of fans, including myself, we always been interested about Deshaun Snow, honey. Like, what she doing? Like, I know she was on Watch What Happened Live one time looking snatched for the guys, honey. And she still looks snatched for the guys, honey. So I'm like, okay, girl. Boom. Then we see Bob, Sheree ex husband. We see Tammy, crazy ass honey. I don't know if y'all remember her that season. I think that was like the first season. Nene went up there and they went to Miami for a trip, and Tammy drunk ass went there, and a whole lot of stuff was going on. And I don't know if she had brought her two sons or somebody there. It was just a lot of mess that was going on that season. But anyways, her crazy ass was there. And then throughout, we did see Dr. Jackie. We saw Quad. We saw Lisa Nicole. We saw Peter, honey, walking up with his zipper unzipped. And Kenya's talking about some, child, your zipper unzipped. And he done walked on. She was like, child, he high as hell, honey. I was like, ooh, girl. Like, don't be saying that, child. It was funny, but I was like, ooh. And we saw Pooh Hicks. I don't know if y'all watch Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, but I remember her from being up there. She messy too, but I mean, she had people all up and through. Of course, we know Dwight was there because he had walked upstairs and chatted with her. And Dwight looking good, child, honey. Because first of all, I'm glad he cut that hair, because I did not like that hair back in the day, honey, with it like sticking up and stuff. It looked like he had got it permed or whatever, and then just like combed it up so it could look spiky or whatever. But the way Dwight looked now, honey, look classy, regal, OG, queen, honey. Not that he won't classy and regal before, honey. I just didn't like the hair back in the day, honey. But the closer cut looking hair and everything he had on, honey, I was like, yes, child. When I get older, honey, I want to give me a little pullover fur piece like that, honey. So I was like, okay, the white child, you giving the kids the stuff, honey. And then from there, everybody show up, they chit chat, and Marlo arrives last, and she's like, "Hey y'all, what's the tea? Look like a wedding up in here." They were like, "Okay, child." She was like, "Well, child, I wonder if her and Tyrone getting married because I just seen him outside." And they're like, "Girl, what? You ain't seen no Tyrone outside?" She was like, "Child, yes I did, honey. He in a black and white outfit, honey. He has some flowers." And lo and behold, honey, they show Tyrone walking in with a black and white, like, checkered print outfit. Now, this suit looked good on him, honey. I was like, okay, Tyrone looked like he had some white forces or something, too. But they show him going up the steps with the 2 bundles or flowers, honey. I guess it's bundles. I don't know what they call them, child. 2 dozen roses, honey. And he walks in the room where Sheree at. She's getting dressed, getting her makeup done, and all that good stuff. And everybody's getting prepped for the fashion show. And he pretty much goes in there. She's like, "Hey, happy you were here." Gave her some flowers. And then her mom walked in. I know she was probably happy because I know she was over Tyrone's ass at that point, honey. Her mom walked in. You're like, "Oh, hey, this my mom. Mom, this Tyrone." She looking like, "Oh, here's Tyrone, child." And Sheree like, "Prison bag." And she like, "Oh." And he like, "Hey, these are for you. Get her the flowers." I was like, "Ooh, child. The mama don't even know your name, child. She only know you at Prison Bay, honey. And for your mom to only know Prison Bay, Sheree, you must have not really mention his name like that. I mean, not saying you didn't, but you probably